Sometimes when planning a transport network, mistakes can be made. Sometimes these mistakes were just prioritizing a short-term issue without considering the long-term impacts. In this video, we'll look at the QR 160 and 260, looking at both their history and the history of the railway network they were built for, to show both how the mistake happened and how through refurbishment it was fixed and the train was made far better. This is how to fix a train. For the history to this story, we will need to rewind the network clock back to the mid-2000s. This time period, making use of recently added capacity in Brisbane CBD, saw key projects like the third track from Salisbury to Currabee, the most recent extension of the Gold Coast line to Varsity Lakes, beginning of duplication of the line to Nambour with corridor realignment from Caboolture to the Beerburrum, and the duplication to Ferny Grove. This takes us to the 2010s with the Springfield line and the 2016 Redcliffe Peninsula line. Overall, this marks a great increase in network demand with new coverage and new capacity spreading around the network. And this new capacity was very needed, with a very common complaint on the railway network at the time, with the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast lines being nicknamed the Bombay Express. Three-car trains are common, and limited capacity and frequency during peak periods caused seating and really high demand, with trains being overcrowded and people standing for hours. The solution to this came in the form of the Transperth B series ordered in 2002, with these trains then built in Maryborough and built the rapidly expanding Perth rail network. Introducing new lines with travel times close to an hour, with stopping patterns that match similarly to what is needed for both the Gold Coast and Sunshine Coast line. With a seating layout as devoted to standing capacity, this train seemed to fit the bill, and in 2004 our own contract was signed for our own version of the B series. We just changed it slightly so no one would think that we copied their homework. The first 160 then entered service in 2007 on the Gold Coast line. Following this, all 160s and 260s entered service. This then brings around over to 2017. Three-car units weren't completely resolved from the timetable, but in peak hour several services were increased with more frequency and more capacity to reduce overcrowding, at least for now. And it wouldn't be too long till a problem would emerge. Following the original B series design, these trains suffered from limited standing capacity. Now you may be wondering, why standing capacity is such a big deal, particularly for lines like the Gold Coast and Nambour lines? Well, population growth isn't just coming for Brisbane CBD. Southeast Queensland is facing a widespread population boom, and this then puts extra pressure on the rail network. And even if it isn't people standing all the way from the Gold Coast to Brisbane, you still have inner Brisbane areas and people seeking the express train for faster travel time. Just note that NAPA is expected overcrowding if crossover rail is not built by 2026. And it's not just the Gold Coast line facing this issue, the design of these trains is standard across both the suburban and the interurban variants, and it's common for interurban sets to find themselves on suburban duties anyway. This leads to increased risk of aisle overcrowding and trains becoming overcrowded far sooner. This is despite older sets and the NGR being built with more standing capacity, meaning they can accommodate this demand far better, resulting in a modern suburban train that can't handle suburban running, and an interurban and suburban train that can't handle peak crowding. This isn't a unique issue to us either, with cities around the world having designs that opt for standing capacity, and even the Perth B series, which we designed our trains off, have their own variants with complete subway seating throughout the train. This then continues with the new Transperth C series, which has a mixed seating arrangement throughout the entire length of the train, allowing both standing and seating capacity, with this train intended to replace the B series. This approach is rather similar to what we have done for the NGR, and more strongly with the new QTMP train, which is intended to have a complete 1x2 seating arrangement throughout the entire train, maximising both aisle space and standing space. With the problem known, and a successful refurbishment on the 200s and 100s, They've also refit to the NGR. The time had come for the refurbishment of the QR 160 and 260. The story only gets better from here. With these trains only halfway through their lifespan, a good opportunity came to not just fix the internal layout, but to bring the train forwards to a standard that better matches or even beats the NGR. To not just fix the train, but to make the train better and more suited for the long-term vision for the railway network. And this was an opportunity we did not waste. The train sees several upgrades, including from the door buttons, designed in a way which matched the NGR, but also new flooring. The new floor having a more blue tint compared to the NGR, following the new seating colour that we've been adopting with the refurbishments. You can see here the clear colour difference between the refurb and the NGR. Something kept the same, but the glow-in-the-dark stripes that mark the length of the train in the aisle. Staying with the doorway, some sets have been fitted with new window arrangements or new doors. However, this has not been a uniform feature of the refurbishment for a reason that I do not understand. Moving on from that, the refurbishment also added new emergency help points and new assistance request buttons which match what have also been added to the NGR. And one other cool thing with the doors, they have been retimed to allow them to close slightly faster.
Doors closing, please stand clear.
It's not much, but I find it cool. Moving down the train, the improved seating layout is far more obvious, with a new mix of booth seating as well as 3 wide sideways seating by the doors, which have also followed the NGR design by having the priority seating label built into the seat fabric itself, once again continuing the theme of upgrading this train to match the NGR in design. Moving down to carriage 3, we can see the dedicated standing carriage, a section full of sideways seating, which also matches what has been added to the NGR, with also one carriage of sideways seating already present before the retrofit. While bringing the train up to the NGR style has been a very obvious theme of this upgrade, the train has actually seen some upgrades which make it more advanced than the NGR. For example, the internal lighting is now more flexible. Instead of being at a fixed rate, in daytime the lighting can be more dim, but then when it becomes night, the lighting turns brighter to allow you to see better in the dark. But that's not the only thing. The internal digital screens on these trains, while in the NGR just show ads, this train can also show a digital readout of the onboard announcement, making these the first train in Southeast Queensland with digital displays instead of just dot matrix. The fun side effect of this is that the new generation rolling stock are now less advanced than these trains which were built before. To make sure the NGR doesn't have anything over these trains, sideways displays were then added to the exterior of these trains, being fitted inside the window frame as opposed to the NGR where they sit above. One last bonus thing that compares these trains to the NGRs are the new headlights. Previously you could tell if an NGR was coming by the very bright white headlights, now it's either an NGR or the Refurb 60. Overall, this refurbishment has taken the train and upgraded it heavily to match the style of the NGR while also not being afraid to make some improvements which make the train better than the NGR. Before we go into the negatives, it's time to properly do a comparison between the old carriage layout and the new refurbished layout. Sit back and enjoy the walkthrough between the old train and the new train. What you'll immediately notice is the old yellow lighting, which had been common on Brisbane trains until the NGR and the refurbishments. You can also see the old green side panelling, which had not really aged well on several sets, either being worn or showing signs of intentional damage. What you can really see though walking down this train is just the complete lack of standing space. If the area around the doors was full, which it often is, you would either have to just wait for the next train or stand in the aisle and block people trying to leave the train. And you can see it was just every carriage was just no standing room. Unfortunately, not everything is perfect with the refurbishment. While for the suburban sets it's more than adequate, you have the seating layout of a suburban train, the interurban sets with the exact same seating layout, which is typically fine, we do have a mix of uses. However, there is the absence of luggage space. While the NGRs have this too, which just goes to further connect the refurbishment to the NGRs, older sets like the 100s and 120s do retain luggage space, and as these sets are pretty commonly run on the Nambour line, it may have been good to see the luggage space be preserved for some time. And while yes, in the future these trains are to be taken off the Gold Coast and Nambour line, with Crossover Rail replacing these services of NGRs and QTMP trains, the same network reshuffle sees the airport line link up to the Ipswich line, which makes these services a prime destination for the refurbished 160s. Being the airport line, luggage space really should have been included in the upgraded design. It isn't the end of the world. With increased sideways seating and increased booth seating, there is still more places for suitcases to be stored, it's just not that optimal. Personally, having a above seating luggage storage like in the 100s would have provided a good balance between not sacrificing both standing and seating capacity, but also providing key utility for a train that's running services that will expect luggage usage. But overall, this refurbishment has been very successful. It has taken a train that was designed to solve an issue that existed in 2009, and then when more issues came after, it was refurbished to suit the modern network and be brought up to a standard that the new trains will provide. Making a train not really well liked and not well suited for the runs it was doing, to a train that is well adjusted and also marks the beginning point for the new era of Brisbane train design. Final remarks for this video. I really hope the success of this refurbishment brings upon a refurb for the 220s and 120s, as if their older yellow lighting that makes the trains feel far older than they actually are, and the 120 seats need rethinking. I do not like them, I never have, and I never will. Let me know in the comments what you would like to see added to trains in a future refurbishment, either for older sets or for the 60s and the NGR, to see them match the network needs well after the Olympic Games. Thanks for watching.